Hello, it's Alpha here, and today we are gonna be talking about Marilee and the Lightbearer faction talents. So first I will just explain why we are using Marilee, and then I will give you some other options that you can use instead of her if you don't have her. And then I will show you some of the Supreme Arena attacks that I've been doing this week using these kinds of teams. Okay, so why are we even talking about Marilee? Because if you don't know, she has been part of the game already for a long time, and she has not really been good for PvP. And I would say that is kind of still true. She's not really in general good for PvP, but because of the Lightbearer faction talents, you can actually use her to some extent now, and she can be like really powerful as a result. So that is why we are using her on the Supreme Arena instead of the regular arena, because with the Supreme Arena you have the faction talents active. So you can't really do this strategy on the regular arena. If you don't know what the Lightbearer faction talents do, this is the whole description, but I'm not gonna go through every detail, but basically it gives the prime carriers big attack speed buff, and after every 2 normal attacks, the prime carrier will also fire an extra arrow that deals huge amounts of true damage to one enemy, and then it also pushes back the enemy that it hits. So all of these effects combined can lead into huge damage increase for your prime carrier heroes. Ideally for this team to kind of work, you would want the Lightbearer faction talents to be at level 30. Because of the things we just mentioned with the talents, you ideally want your prime carrier heroes to be someone with fast attack speed, long attack range, and mostly does auto attacks. And then it also can be bonus if the auto attacks of the hero can hit multiple targets, because one of the things with the talents requires your hero to hit 2 normal attacks, and then it will fire the extra attack with the talents. So these are the heroes that kind of fit into that description. I mean, there might be some other ones as well, but I think these are probably the best ones to use. And they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. I would say overall maybe the strongest one is Niru actually, but Marilee is still a good candidate for this kind of hero. So here are just a couple examples about their strengths and weaknesses. And because we're talking about Lightbearer faction talents, you need to have at least 3 Lightbearer heroes in your team. So Marilee is already a Lightbearer hero, so then you need only 2 other Lightbearer heroes. So that is also benefit for using her instead of the other options. Yeah, Niru's benefits are that he is a bit more tanky. He has some more health than compared to Marilee, etc. And he will cast his ultimate at the start of the fight, so if the enemy team has Lily May will interrupt Niru, but that doesn't matter at all to you in this context, so you can just use some other hero that has important ultimate. Niru can also do some healing throughout the fight. Because of his Supreme Plus upgrade ability, his normal attacks now hit multiple targets and have a global range, so he's not going to move from his starting position, so that is good with stuff like Coreforge, Artifact, and Hugin. So overall I think Niru has probably the least amount of weaknesses out of these heroes. So yeah, I think those are the main options that you can use as kind of the prime carriers of this team. I would say that most of the time you probably want to use 2 of these as the prime carrier, so that if one of them ends up dying, the other one can still do a lot of damage. But technically you don't even have to use 2 of these, you can just use 1 of them, because even the one can be so much damage that you can maybe try to build your team a bit more tanky, instead of actually using 2 of these kind of squishy heroes in the team. So then what kind of team comps can you build with this Lightbearer faction talents? So one thing you obviously need is 3 Lightbearer heroes, so that limits your hero selection quite a bit, because Lightbearers don't currently have that many good PvP heroes for the Supreme Arena. So oftentimes Siren is kind of needed in this team to truly make it viable team. You can do a version of this team without Siren, but having Siren in the team will actually like increase its power a lot. Here are some team examples that you can do. So you can have the Walker and the Niru as the prime carriers. Then you have Hugin for the shielding, Siren for the extra damage and disabling the enemy artifact, and then you have something like Ludovic or Callan to provide some extra like defense for your team. Here is another version of the team. This time we don't even like really have two prime carriers in a sense. We are just using Marilee as the prime carrier, and then you can use either like Siren or Lily May as the secondary prime carrier, but they're not gonna like benefit that much from the prime carrier thing. I mean, they will still get some benefits from it, but they're not gonna be doing that many auto attacks. Just the Marilee alone combined with Siren is usually enough to do a lot of damage to the enemy team. And then you could definitely use something like Dunninger as part of your team, because your team doesn't really care that much if they can cast ultimates or not, because most of the damage comes from the faction talent effect that is related to your auto attacks. Now, one thing is that we are using Siren and Hugin in this example, so maybe you could use some other Lightbearers, because both of those heroes are quite reliant on their ultimates, and you are also blocking your own ultimates. So maybe it makes more sense in this situation to actually use some other Lightbearer hero like Luca instead of the Hugin. And yeah, this is kind of like the same theme once again, but using Luca, and then you have one spot that is flexible based on the enemy team and based on the heroes that you have left on your team. You kind of have like one flexible spot in these teams in general. So for example, I used Sylvina in this one as the 5th hero so that I can snipe the enemy Bonnie.
Mo 仕事の時間ですかい? What? 槍が力になろう。煙で全てを覆い隠しましょう。
了解。
Yeah, then quickly about the cons of this team. I would say that this is mostly going to be a team that you want to use when you're attacking enemy teams, because then you can plan the heroes that you use a bit more carefully and plan the artifact that you're using a bit more carefully, because the issue with this team is that it is really squishy. For example, Marilee can just instantly die to some stuff like Siren AoE or like Shamira AoE even before she like actually ultimates, or something like Tasi ultimate. Those things will usually just kill your Marilee, for example, really easily. So it can be really hard to make a defense team that can actually like protect your prime carriers long enough for them to actually start like doing damage, because it takes a couple seconds for the damage to start rolling in with this Lightbearer faction talent. I guess if you don't really have like good team for your third team on Supreme Arena, you could maybe like try using Lightbearer team, because sometimes it can like catch people off guard because they are not used to seeing how much damage this team can actually do. I would say that this team is like quite explosive in a sense that it can actually like really quickly kill the enemy team, but it will also like explode really quickly. So usually the fights are not gonna last long. If the map is such that you can kind of like protect your heroes a bit, or your prime carriers a bit more from the enemy assassin heroes, then it can be a bit better to use this as a defense team. Or if you have Dunlinger to prevent something like Aaron ultimate or like Pandora Tasi ultimate, then maybe it's a bit better. But generally speaking, I would say that this is mostly a attack team.